Diletta, good morning. Welcome to the podcast. Um, well, first of all, okay, I know you have a busy schedule nggak sih? And we've sort of get delayed this couple of times, and I just appreciate you kayak coming over here and kayak ngeluangin waktu aja sih untuk ngobrol dikit di sini. You know. Now,
Yeah, makasih Brian. I'm happy to be here.
now before we sort of kayak touch on the podcast gitu segala, could you maybe introduce yourself, what it is that you currently do? Because
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that podcasting kan it's your side gig, right? It's just like a passion project. You have
Yeah,
a full
yeah,
time work now.
absolutely. Jadi nama gue Diletta, gue dari asli Indonesia juga kayak lu Brian. Dan sekarang lagi tinggal di Melbourne. Mainly kerjaan gue yang full time sekarang di Deakin University di departemen yang namanya Spark Deakin, di mana tugas kita itu untuk membantu mahasiswa, alumnus, alumni dan staff dari Deakin University untuk membangun startup mereka gitu. Tapi di luar Spark Deakin sebetulnya pekerjaan gue itu di bidang kreatif. Jadi aslinya gue pertama kuliah tahun 2010 itu mengambil jurusan seni lukis. Tapi setelah lulus, gue lihat untuk menjadi pelukis yang bisa supporting my cost of living bakal agak susah. Jadi
Right.
gue menjurus towards bidang graphic design, dan untuk dalam I think 4 to 6 years yang lalu gue bekerja di Filipina, di Indonesia, dan di Australia sebagai freelance graphic designer juga. Dan
Oh,
di luar
okay.
semua itu, gue juga sangat involved di kayak macam youth organization, di mana kita kayak ngumpul dan mungkin kolaborasi dalam project-project yang membantu improving the state of the world, for lack of better term.
Okay. Right, right. And kayak where's that kayak link between kayak creativity sama jadi lu sekarang nge-support like startups gitu, kayak where's the link tiba-tiba lu mau kerja sama
Yeah,
startups gitu.
one of my favorite quotes by, I hope I'm quoting correctly, I think it's Aristotle, is where your talents and the needs of the world meet, there lies your purpose. Dan bagi gue, interpretasi gue untuk quote itu adalah ya mungkin talenta gue di bidang kreatif, bidang komunikasi, dan bidang membangun hubungan antar organisasi atau antar macam kolaborator. Dan sekarang gue lagi merasa tempat di mana gue bisa mengaktifkan talenta itu untuk membantu orang lain, yaitu dari bidang startups dan
Oh,
social impact.
okay, right, right. And again, kayak there's another follow-up question because I'm just
Yeah.
curious aja sih, how exactly do you kayak directly impact these kayak startups yang baru mau mulai gitu segala sih? That's something that I'm quite curious about.
Yeah, and that's a great question. Jadi dalam program kita yang kita ketemui itu ada macam-macam, mereka di macam-macam tahap ya, di tahap pembangunan startup mereka. Ada yang masih student, mungkin masih first year, dan dia cuma tertarik di bidang entrepreneurship tapi nggak tahu mau mulai di mana. Terus ada juga mungkin yang udah beberapa tahun kuliah dan dia sedang bereksperimen dengan sebuah teknologi dan ingin membuat sebuah produk dari teknologi tersebut, dan mungkin dia yang dia butuhkan itu bimbingan dalam atau mentoring dalam cara membangun sebuah bisnis. Apa aja sih yang harus disiapkan, what are the different, I guess, aspects of building a business that they need to be aware of. Karena bagi kita untuk membangun startup itu lu nggak harus dari bidang bisnis doang. Malah startup yang paling menarik yang kita lihat itu mereka orang dari science, mereka engineer, mereka orang kreatif, dan tugas kita itu membangun dia punya skill set dalam membangun bisnis yang akan menjadi successful. Dan
Right.
kalau di startup sih skillsnya kayak macam pitching, marketing, finding collaborators, networking, gitu-gitu. Kita
Oh,
juga
okay.
kasih mereka funding untuk yang udah lebih mature lagi. Misalnya kita lihat, oke, bisnis ini ada potensialnya yang lumayan tinggi. Setiap tahun kita punya program yang namanya Accelerator, di mana kita pilih 10 tim atau 10 startup, dan kita beri mereka funding 10.000 Aussie dollars, dan itu tidak mengambil percentage dari atau equity dari mereka punya company, karena kalau di luar program university biasanya model accelerator lain mereka ambil equity juga. Jadi oke, gue kasih lo investment 10.000 100.000 but we'll take 5% of your business gitu.
All right. Okay. So you also kayak outside from just mentoring them, kayak teaching them the skills that they need to build a successful business, lu juga kadang-kadang you help fund their business and okay.
Ya,
Right.
gitu.
Got it. Um, well, sebenarnya like there's another thing that I'm quite curious of kayak mumpung kita lagi ngomongin startup gitu sih, kayak I mean you work as this one of the mentors kan kayak for these startups, right? Kayak have you identified kayak well mungkin faktor-faktor apa sih yang penting gitu in building a startup, do you think, yang mungkin if a close relative of yours gitu mau mulai startup gitu, let's say, what are the key factors kayak yang bakal lu you would suggest them really pay attention to, tau gak, in building a successful startup or business gitu?
Yeah, sorry, absolutely. And just to clarify, I do mentor a couple of startups when it comes to pitching, digital marketing, storytelling, and branding. So those are my areas, but not so much in business building. But I can speak to this a little bit. Yang gue lihat skill set yang I think sangat membantu ya, because if you're building a startup, it can be a very isolating experience. Kayak
Isolating.
the financial, isolating. What's the word in Indonesian? Kayak menyendirikan ya.
Okay.
Because you don't have a salary, you have an idea, and you're like, carrying the torch for your idea, and you're trying to do it all alone. Menurut gue sih salah satu skill set yang penting dan sangat penting itu skill set mencari kolaborator dan I guess your ability to identify your own blind spots. Jadi sebagai seorang entrepreneur, kadang-kadang karena lu kerja untuk diri lu sendiri, you have to do everything. Dan itu sebuah recipe yang sangat, baik untuk, it's a great recipe for burnout. Dan kita dalam observasi gue, dalam banyak founder, banyak yang akhirnya, they burn themselves to the ground karena they try to do it all by themselves. So I think an important skill set is knowing your own skill sets and then knowing where you can find a collaborator to cover the areas that are not your strengths. Karena energi lu kan it's not infinite, jadi harus strategic.
Try to understand kayak where your strengths lie and kayak dimana you're pretty weak, kayak just let those people, other people yang mungkin expert di bagian itu, just let them do their thing gitu ya.
Iya banget. And like time is your greatest resource, and you only have as many hours in a day as Beyonce.
That's absolutely right sih, man. And again, as you said kayak tadi, isolating. Well, financially yes, but also kayak this if you have a startup idea, itu tuh belum tentu sukses juga nggak sih? While other people who have jobs gitu, they're so they have this certain future, okay, they get salaries and all that, but
Yeah, I think the percentage of startup success is what is it? Like 97% of Australian businesses fail.
Oh man, that is so kayak having something that you're so passionate about and then kayak seeing it fail.
Yeah, but it's not all gloom and doom. I want to say that startups are important because dalam sisi pribadi or personal development, menurut gue skill set dan pelajaran-pelajaran yang lu bisa dapat dari, even if you're just a student, you want to test building a small startup. Nggak usah punya dream gede-gede banget. I think banyak pelajaran yang bisa kita ambil dari kesempatan seperti itu.
Just building a startup gitu ya.
Dan karena untuk masa depan lu, meskipun misalnya lu nggak tertarik bangun startup itu dan lu cuma pengen menjadi employee di sebuah company sekarang mencari orang-orang yang punya skill set entrepreneurial thinking seperti itu. Jadi untuk menajami skill set itu sangat penting menurut gue dalam tahap misalnya university atau as a young person.
Right, okay, so it's not like black and white kayak if it fails, it fails. If you fail kayak you still learn a lot of things kayak along the way juga ya.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then on a social scale, for those that do succeed, they play an important role in stimulating the economy, introducing new ideas and new technologies, so on and so
Right.
forth.
Yeah, yeah. Iya sih. Now, well, I think kayaknya it's a good time to sort of segue.
Yep.
Gue sebenarnya mau touch on your podcast sekarang, which is Sana-sini podcast. For those who have not heard of it, I think it's a really good podcast. You've got some great guests on there as well. One of the episodes yang benar-benar I thoroughly enjoyed was Sean's episode. I think I told you this before. It was very insightful. And have you always been kayak an avid listener of podcasts? Makanya jadi you had this idea to, you know what, let's start a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Jadi mungkin introduksi gue ke dunia podcasting, gue lupa kapan ya, tapi mungkin waktu seumuran lu kayak early 20s gitu, ada keinginan untuk ya meluaskan perspektif dan my mind, broadening my mind.
Okay.
Dan karena ada beberapa topik-topik yang pengen gue explore, dulu sih yang gue paling tertarik bidangnya kayak macam mindfulness gitu. I listen to a lot of podcasts like On Being, Hurry Slowly, The Ezra Klein Show for a bit of like politics,
Right.
and I always had this dream of wanting to do my own. Sampai waktu gue lagi freelancing di sini, pernah salah satu klien gue, dia podcaster juga, dan gue kayak duduk di sidelines gitu nontonin dia punya kerjaan, dan ada keinginan tapi belum tahu kapan atau apa yang pengen gue omongin gitu.
Yeah.
Sampai akhirnya waktu gue udah 2 tahun kerja di Deakin dalam urusan startup ini, gue ada perasaan kayak ada yang kosong gitu di hati gue, karena gue udah 2 tahun itu nggak banyak melakukan kerjaan kreatif atau desain.
Okay.
Padahal seumur hidup gue sampai sebelum Deakin itu kerjaan gue tuh kreatif dan desain terus. Jadi ada kayak gap gitu. Dan waktu kita kena pandemi dan gue trapped di rumah, bengong gitu, merasa yaudah ada waktu nih, langsung beli podcasting mic and iseng aja nulis, kayak put my ideas down into paper. Jadi yang gap pertama itu gap creativity yang pengen gue omongin di podcast gue. And then the second thing that I wanted to be involved in was komunitas atau membangun komunitas di antara Australia dan Indonesia, karena gue sebagai seorang WNI tinggal di Australia, ada perasaan mungkin kayak lu juga ya, you're living in Australia dan your podcast is called Genzet Indonesia.
Yeah.
Pengen kayak ada FOMO gitu ya, masih mau ikut conversation di, atau I should say that one more time. This is I don't care if you don't cut this out. It's fine. I'll say it in English because in case it wasn't already obvious, that's my more comfortable language.
All good.
I wanted to broaden the conversation that people could participate in, and broaden that idea of what is local. Dan untuk orang-orang kayak lu sama gue, ya local kita punya identitas lokal di Indonesia, tapi di Melbourne sebagai komunitas mahasiswa Indonesia atau diaspora Indonesia, kita juga membuat lokalitas kita sendiri, dan kita juga menerjemahkan identitas tinggal di Australia dalam cara kita sendiri gitu loh. Dan gue pengen orang Australia dan orang Indonesia di Indonesia ngerti atau dapat kayak insight into kehidupan seperti ini. Dan jadi the idea is identitas orang Indonesia dan identitas orang Australia mungkin lebih nyambung dengan adanya conversation seperti ini.
Okay. Jadi so your podcast, jadi I mean kalau gua salah bilang aja ya. Jadi maksudnya kayak podcast ini tuh lu tuh kayak mau it's a platform where Australians and Indonesians could participate in and they can learn from each other gitu ya, basically.
Yeah. At people to people level juga, karena kita lihat kalau dari zooming out ke skala pemerintahan, Sekarang ada yang namanya IASEPA, Indonesian Australian Free Trade Agreement, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, it's a
Right.
mouthful. Dan itu artinya sekarang di antara kedua negara kita akan ada free trade. Tapi untuk sebuah agreement seperti ini untuk menjadi truly effective, harus ada hubungan antara orang-orang dalam level orang biasa gitu loh. Dan bagi gue masih kurang ada representation untuk young professionals mungkin di bidang kreatif, kayak model, like stuff like TED Talks, radio hour, I don't know, just like these cool podcasts things. I think like they exist in Australia and they exist in Indonesia, and I just want to create some overlap.
Okay, that's interesting. See, okay, how you came up with that idea is, man, okay, that just came to you out of nowhere.
Well, it's not so much that I thought of. Yeah, you're right. It was just the circumstance that I live in. Kebetulan, gue dari kecil itu banyak pindah-pindah negara karena bokap gue kerja sebagai seorang diplomat untuk Indonesia. Jadi selalu ada dalam kepribadian gue ada this sense of I'm always representing Indonesia. Meskipun sekarang gue nggak ada hubungan sama KBRI atau KJRI gitu, kayak just as an individual, I still love it.
Right. Okay, got it. Now, and so, okay, one day you're like, all right, let's make this podcast, and okay, there's a team backing this podcast up. You start forming this team, and okay, they're pretty close to you. Jadi you can just like easily like, hey, do you want to come on board on this podcast project that you have?
Yeah, it was really important for me from the beginning to not do it alone. And like, the idea of building a team of volunteers, everybody's volunteering. This is an out-of-pocket, totally not-for-profit thing. It's like, it's tough, but it's better than, I think, doing it by yourself. Dan jadi podcast gue itu bukan opini gue doang, tapi gue bisa meresap juga otak-otak orang lain, dan jadi it's a richer perspective.
I think that's a better way of doing it. I think having all these different opinions on this.
And the other thing I wanted to just like highlight on the podcast, meskipun kebetulan gue orang Indo yang tinggal di Australia dan kebetulan audience gue di Australia dan di Indonesia, fokusnya itu dalam topik creativity, karena menurut gue setelah gue kerja di bidang startups dan not for profit, dan udah sempat dipping my feet in a few different pools, gue lihat orang itu atau professionals di dunia ini semua memiliki unsur kreativitas dalam cara mereka sendiri. Even if they're a business strategist or a medical professional or an engineer atau seniman, semua itu menurut gue ada unsur kreatifnya. Dan yang gue tertarik untuk mendalami dari sana-sini itu gimana cara kreativitas ini muncul di profesi macam-macam dan gimana kita bisa saling belajar dari situ.
Okay. Right. So, you're really interested in creativity. And that's something that you just want to explore, creativity in different people, in different walks of life. Okay. All right, that's cool, see. Now if you're willing to share, sih, gue mau nanya tentang the process behind a podcast episode. These episodes are well produced and kayak you have good questions biasanya untuk guestnya begitu. And you always seem to be very prepared for it, and I'm just curious, maybe how does it work, a podcast episode? Maybe you can start off with how do you approach the guests maybe to be on the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. And untuk teman-teman yang lagi dengerin Kit, gue sama Brian hari ini, listen in. If you want to start a podcast, I'd be happy to share my process and all that. Jadi satu pillar value yang paling penting untuk gue ketika membangun sana-sini itu is quality. Karena yang gue lihat di bidang startup, jadi kan everything has a dark side and a light side. Yang gue lihat di bidang startup, banyak orang kayak always in a rush, trying to ship something really fast. Dan ada konsep namanya minimum viable product, yaitu kayak, okay, just get a prototype out, mungkin buat testing doang and get feedback on it and then improve after that. And I think it's great. Tapi kadang-kadang menurut gue sebagai seorang seniman juga, untuk membangun sesuatu dan offering it to the world and having people listen to it, what is the value that you're giving them? Itu sebuah pertanyaan yang selalu gue tanya. Dan gimana kita bisa honoring the time that they give you with something in return. Dan untuk gue dari sana-sini itu yang penting adalah konten pembicaraannya dan kualitas presentasinya. Makanya gue kalau waktu pertama mulai itu bisa makan waktu 6 jam buat editing doang, dan itu gue edit sendiri. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It's a bit of a, like, some people say it's a waste of time, but for me it's art, you know, this is my expression. Dan to answer your question, jadi proses gue pertama, gue lihat ya pertama di immediate network gue, siapa sih yang lagi doing something interesting dan mungkin agak beda dari, I don't know, just like what is being highlighted in mainstream media. Kayak kalau kita lihat mainstream media sekarang kan yang banyak muncul itu, I mean, it will be different for everyone depending on what field you're in. So I just try to keep it diverse. And I will just email someone, and yang selalu gue lakukan itu ada yang namanya pre-interview. Jadi gue kayak ngobrol casual gini, dan gue tanya, okay, I'm interested in, misalnya gue lagi ngomong sama an engineer, I'm interested in like your technology and I want to feature on the podcast and talk about creativity. Dan kita kayak ngobrol, jadi cerita lu apa, like what's your background, what is your purpose, dan gue cari kayak I try to extract the core messages behind what they're doing, not just the face value, because everyone can see they're an engineer, everyone can see they have built maybe a robot or a technology or something like that. Tapi gue tertarik dari apa sih inspirasi dia dan kenapa dia pengen giving this to the world juga. So I spent like about 30 minutes speaking to someone before interviewing them, just to get a more insight into their story. And then setelah itu gue kayak drafting pertanyaan, mungkin 5-10 pertanyaan, dan gue kirim balik ke orangnya, dan mungkin dia respon, dan kalau semuanya oke, jadi kita dua-duanya ada kesempatan untuk benar-benar prepare ourselves. Dan itu bukan karena, maybe there's an aspect of this where I'm a bit of a perfectionist, tapi menurut gue sih waktu kita kan sedikit ya. Nah, mungkin untuk rekaman cuma dapat 30-60 menit. Jadi gimana cara kita bisa menggunakan waktu itu in the best way possible, and that's why I do all that research and preparation beforehand.
Right. Okay. So after all that preparation comes the interview.
Yeah.
And do you get nervous at all, before an interview?
Yeah, I always do. Yeah. But actually, that was an semi-automatic answer. I used to get nervous a lot, apalagi kalau, sorry, bukan soal podcasting ya, tapi kalau gue lagi mau public speaking, mau jadi panelis atau speech or whatever, I get really nervous. Tapi untuk podcast sana-sini, karena gue hostnya dan gue udah prepare everything, I don't actually get nervous because I'm ready. Kita udah agreed upon all these things with my guest, then I'm the facilitator. So that conversation is my design. So I'm the responsible person. I'm the mother hen, you know. So I have to remain calm and make sure that my guest feels calm as well. So it's not too bad when it comes to the interview. And for me, it's like just having somebody in my living room, you know. It's like making sure that they feel comfortable. And then after the interviewing process, biasanya gue dengerin lagi dan gue kayak nulis catatan apa aja sih pointers dari pembicaraan itu yang menurut gue mau gue highlight. Dan sekarang baru minggu lalu gue mulai kerja sama kolaborator, seorang sound engineer. So I'm not spending 6 hours editing anymore. And I'm paying for that, but it's so worth it.
It saves so much time dengan gitu.
Yeah.
Wow. you said that you were nervous kayak when you talk in panels, public speaking, terus gak, especially kayak when you, are you confident? I mean, when I hear you speak in English, kayak Inggris lu kayak bagus banget gitu kan. And do you still get like super nervous kayak when you like, especially when you have to do public speaking in front of locals maybe in English?
Yeah. Well, English I would say is my first language. Jadi
Okay.
and I feel more comfortable kalau jadi gue tinggal di Indonesia itu dan SD di Indo sampai kelas 3 SD. Jadi bahasa Indo gue itu stuck di
Level 3 SD. Aduh,
Exactly.
kacau. Oh,
Dan setelah itu ya stuck di level 3 SD dan nongkrong sama anak-anak Jakarta gitu loh waktu SMA University here and there. Yeah.
okay. Right.
So
but other than that, kayak lu emang environmentnya lu tuh semuanya Inggris semua ya kebanyakan ya.
yeah, mostly. And the other thing that I get nervous about is when I'm presenting on like a specific subject matter. But if I'm just talking in conversation like this, then I find it a lot easier.
Oh, okay. Jadi ini lebih, oh, okay.
Karena kalau lu presentasi dan harus jadi seorang expert kan, lu nggak boleh salah.
Okay, you have to, but you have to like seem like you know it. Okay, you know everything gitu ya.
Yeah, exactly. And the benefit of being a podcast host like sana-sini, and the reason why I don't get nervous is I don't have to be the know-it-all. I'm the one asking questions, and I'm
Right.
the learner, which is a lovely position to be in.
All right, that's cool. Now, what's the sana-sini podcast? Okay, do you have like major future plans for the podcast?
Ya, jadi waktu gue pertama launching, gue ambitious banget. Gue bilang I'm gonna release an episode every 2 weeks. And then I burnt out. Not because of the podcast, tapi you know, life, work, and all these things.
Oh, just a lot of too much stuff going on aja ya.
Iya. Jadi gue sekarang akan lanjut dan gue nggak bilang how often. Yang ketika it's just as it comes. Jadi natural aja kalau kebetulan ada tamu yang bisa gue interview, gue release an episode.
Okay.
But my goal is to continue producing high quality conversations, podcast episodes. Dan ya gue punya sebuah impian di mana mungkin one day sana-sini akan menjadi kayak platform media yang merangkup cerita-cerita progresif, merangkup cerita-cerita atau kayak events di antara Australia Indonesia yang keren gitu loh. Misalnya ada think tank atau conference. I don't know, like Ubud Writers Festival that happened
Ubud
recently.
Writers Festival.
Yeah, that happened a couple of months ago.
Wait, what's that festival about? Gue nggak tahu kalau writers ada festival sendiri.
Yeah, it's the literature festival. Basically, and like they have poets come together and do live readings. They have authors speaking about their books, you know, that sort of thing. It's just like a film festival but for literature. I would love for sana-sini one day to be the media platform of choice to be covering these stories.
That's very ambitious, and I mean it's really good that you're that ambitious, you know. Okay, you've got like big plans for the future, man.
I'm ambitious, but I'm also not going to rush it. So jadi sekarang gue punya kayak filosofi pribadi yang agak menikahkan. That's not right. I have a personal philosophy that's marrying my. It sounds better in English. My two, I guess. Actually, no, three. It's a threesome. I have a thruple philosophy of my experience as an artist, which values the slow and deliberate process and craft of making something beautiful. I have the startup person, or the startup philosophy of, I guess, dreaming big, seeing something, wanting something to scale, and also making everything you do efficient. And I think those things can actually come hand in hand, creating quality while doing it efficiently. Because sometimes if you're doing it, trying to do something only efficiently, only quickly, you miss out maybe on the finer details. So I think there's a way of merging the two. And then the third aspect the third member of my throuple is purpose and social impact. Like, how
Purpose and
is this
social.
going to influence community around you? You know, what difference is this
Right.
making in the world?
Right. Right.
Those are my three pillars.
Yeah, that sounds solid. See, those three pillars.
Oh, I'm willing to be challenged on it as well. If anybody thinks there's something I'm missing, I would love to hear.
Okay. Okay. Um. Well, there was something that I wanted to touch on.
Mm.
This is more relating to ini sih kayak I mean I saw your webpage gitu tau nggak, you know, your website and sana-sini's website, and kayak, you know, you told me that you were a graphic designer kan before kan, and it shows gitu from the homepage and all that kayak dari website yang gitu. This is more of a personal question sih buat gua aja, because I'm sort of curious kayak setting up a website juga, but you know I'm not really sure like how do you design a web page in, jadi kayak benar-benar, you know, how did you get the aesthetics on your web pages tau nggak?
Mm. Hmm. There's two thinking hats I want you to put on in approaching this question. And this is actually quite funny because now it's like, this is me talking to a client. Usually I would
Oh,
run
yeah.
you through a similar process.
Okay.
Jadi the first hat is like your brand for either your podcast or what the product or whatever it is that you're starting. Jadi lu harus tahu, misalnya lu punya podcast ini seorang figur atau tokoh, siapa dia gitu loh. Kayak if you think about, you know, famous people in the world, Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, God, I wish I hadn't just used those examples. Okay, Jacinta Ardern, Obama,
Yeah.
you know, all these people, Donald Trump, they all have kayak yang namanya persona gitu loh. Kayak
Okay.
dia punya, kalau lu pikirin orang ini, dia punya energi yang kayak, apakah dia hot, apakah dia groovy, apakah dia cool, atau you know whatever.
Right.
All these character traits that people have, you should give that to your brand as well. Jadi lu punya brand itu di mata pendengar, di mata audience lu, siapa dia gitu loh. Dan aspek-aspeknya bukan cuman kepribadian, tapi this is what I like to start with, because I think that's like the core. And then what's their style? Apakah dia street, apakah dia modern, apakah dia classic and, you know, elegant, or like, you know, designer style or whatever. So, and then you start building it out like that. It's like you're creating, it's like, yeah, it's like you're playing God for something that, you know, you can have full control over.
Right.
And I find that really fun. And there's a whole process. There's so many ways that you can define your brand. But the simplest way I like to start with is just, if this were a person, if this were a figure, if they were a person or a figure, how would they look like? And the other thing that I'm quoting someone named Nikki Bryson, and she's a brand strategist at PwC, and I attended one of her workshops. She said, your brand is your promise to your audience. Jadi kayak lu bayangin toko Aesop. Setiap kali lu masuk ke sebuah toko Aesop itu, you have the same experience, and you know you will always have that. And even when you're doing home delivery of online shopping, when you open the box, it's a similar experience itu. Jadi di konteks sana-sini, untuk gue, what is that consistent experience that I'm always giving my listeners? That's the high quality podcast presentation. That's the, you know, deep and meaningful conversations. That's the beautiful graphic design.
Okay. So a lot of this is actually get pre-thought out. Okay, they actually get benar-benar think this through and they stick to it long term.
It can happen organically, and a lot of great brands emerge organically just because, you know, maybe, you know, you're just doing something out of your heart and your brand is a reflection of you, but you have to keep it consistent over time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, people will drop off, or, you know, they will ask you, oh, why has it changed? You know, now the second perspective that I mentioned is in building a website. So first you got your brand, you got your design defined, and you know who you are.
Yep.
The second thing is thinking about your audience and what you want them to do with the website. Jadi using a user-centered approach to developing a website. Website itu buat apa? Bukan buat pameran doang kan. Kayak what do you want people to do there? Do you want them to know more about you? Do you want them to subscribe to your newsletter? Do you want them to listen to your podcast? Dan semua konsiderasi ini you have to translate into the design.
Right.
Karena kalau misalnya lu nyemplungin orang di sebuah website dan everything is there, dia bakal bingung dan mungkin dia bakal kabur.
Okay.
Jadi website itu lu harus bikin spesifik, lu pilih dulu. Gue mau si A kalau datang ke website gue mau dia subscribe ke podcast. So how do I do that? You know? So making sure that as when the user experience, and this is what they call user-centered design, user interface, user experience, UI, UX, that sort of thing. You're designing for that. Jadi mungkin sebelum bangun your website, lu harus pikir dulu listing apa aja sih yang pengen lu mau dan lu taruh itu aja. Don't put more than that. If you're gonna put more than that, then making sure the priority is that. So designing based on like a hierarchy of objectives. Maybe objective 1 is awareness. Objective 2, you have a call to action, which is subscribe to my podcast. And then objective 3 is learn more. And then people, when they're landing on a website, they probably have an objective themselves. So understanding this will be good. So that when people land on your website, they want to actually listen to your podcast. So make that easy for them. And then for people who want to know more and learn more, they will look for it. So maybe they'll look for that button that says about me or history or background. And it's not rocket science, and you don't have to, do an expensive course to do this well. I think it's about understanding people and understanding yourself.
Right. That's a really good answer.
That's why they call it human-centered design.
Human-centered design.
Yeah.
That's what they call it.
Well, that's the approach to design that not just for websites, but even in your branding, even in creating furniture, even in creating interior design spaces, like designing for the human being. That's like a wave of thinking that came about in the last couple of decades, and it was pioneered by an organization called IDEO. They kind of like formalized the human-centered design thinking process, and you can utilize that in workshops, so on and so forth. And basically it's like a way to solve problems with an approach that puts the human experience at the center.
Right. Well, I'm learning a lot today, Z, about this stuff. And one last thing about this, itu tuh in the technical stuff, kayak do you just hire a person to like set up the website for you, or do you do your own designing and stuff?
Yeah, fortunately, as a graphic designer, I could do all of that myself. Okay. If you're not a graphic designer, you can use a tool like Canva and try it out, but don't waste too much time trying to do it if that's not where your strengths are. So maybe if you're not good at graphic design, maybe you're really good at strategy. So, use your energy there and then work with someone else. I mean, this strategy in graphic design as well, but if you know someone who's going to do it better than you, then make better use of your time and make better use of their skill set. So you can use Canva to create assets, like logos or whatever. But yeah, I built the website by myself in 30-60 minutes on Squarespace.
So you use Squarespace?
Yeah, there's a lot of like build your own website tools at the moment, like Squarespace, WordPress, Wix, Webflow is the other one that's come up recently. I would still recommend Squarespace for someone who's like time poor and just like wants a like building block modular puzzle approach to creating their website.
It's easier.
I think so. It's pretty easy to understand, and don't stress about having a multiple layered website to begin with. Maybe when you're launching your website, it's just one page and you have one call to action. And then when you've already nailed that, add another page, page, and just keep it simple. I think my philosophy to starting out my website. And a lot of people have like told me that it looks, super crisp and professional and all
Yeah.
that, but I didn't actually spend too much time on it because I started by putting on there what was important only.
Kayak benar-benar like everything that's on the web page tuh kayak they have to struggle to be there gitu. Kalau if
Yeah.
something doesn't really apa ya, you don't really need it, kayak cut that
Cut it out.
stuff out.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. A great writer who talks on this topic is Greg McKeown, and he wrote a book called Essentialism. And the idea of essentialism is, focusing your energy on only what is essential. And it seems very simple, but it's really hard to do because sometimes we're tempted to do everything. And
Right.
but the problem is when you don't make that essential decision for yourself, people start making decisions for you. Oh, lu mau ikutan gue ini nggak? Lu you should do this, and like everybody has an opinion. You should do this, you should do that, blah, 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 blah. And then you're inundated and you're just like, what the fuck? Like I can't keep up. And it doesn't mean that because I know about essentialism, I'm really good at it. I still fall under that trap sometimes, listening to everyone's advice because I want to listen. But then you should still be directed by your core purpose.
Yeah.
And if you're going to listen to other people, vetting for the advice that serves that core purpose only.
Wow. That was a really good response. Yeah, and
Check it out. It's a great book. Easy to read.
Essentialism. Man.
And if you're not a big reader, listen to the Tim Ferriss interview of Greg McKeown.
Yeah.
Yeah, they talk about it, and it's good.
Okay. All right. I think we don't have too much time left, right? I think we got like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And I think that was a really good way to end the podcast, you guys, and you've been very, I've learned a lot from this podcast, from this conversation. I just got to say that. And again, I just want to say that I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your knowledge and your experiences. Right.
Thanks so much, Brian. It was fun to chat. And sorry about the mix-max of Indonesian and English. That was probably a little funky in the beginning.
Santai sih.